You got in.
Hello, Rob.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing okay. A little frazzled now. I don't know why. It never showed up on my computer, so I guess I'm just going to use my phone for today. So
Okay.
sorry about that.
No, no problem. So
Okay.
what can I get? We'll just get into everything.
Yeah, for sure.
How would you explain your music?
Well, for my solo music anyway, I usually describe it as acoustic punk. Um, I always wanted to try to form a punk band, but over the years it just didn't really pan out, and so I decided to take my family's old acoustic guitar and just kind of do it myself, learn a few chords. And so I basically play punk music, just acoustic based. So I just kind
Okay.
of call it acoustic punk.
Well, you're originally a drummer, right?
Yeah, I'm actually primarily a drummer. I've been drumming for over 10 years. And then in 2016, I decided to do my own solo music.
All right, we're gonna get into some harder questions here. What advice were you given that stuck with you?
Oh, shit. I
They're
mean,
gonna get harder and harder, so.
sure, I'm down with that. I mean, there's been plenty of advice. That's really stuck with me. But I think the first thing that comes to mind, at least in terms of being a creative, um, I've always had like a big problem with like feeling like I'm copying people when I write a song, right? Because like there's at this point there's only so much originality that can come out of like writing a song, out of all the progressions or notes that you have, and like the way you can write lyrics. But a good friend of mine a few years ago um, said said to me that really stuck with me that like what you are creating is probably not very original at all, but the way that you're doing it is. And so even if like the progression is almost the same as a different song, or like the lyric theme or like you use similar words is very similar, um, the way that you're doing it and putting your own energy into it and the way you're personifying it and like your perspective of the song is purely original because no one else can really replicate that. And I think that made a really big difference for me. Because, I mean, it just kind of alleviated a lot of pressure off of my shoulders, like trying to be so different, you know? But if you just do you, it's going to be original in that sense, at least.
So when you were in high school, what clique were you in?
What clique was I in?
Yeah.
Um, I was, I mean, I was a pretty big nerd when I was in high school, but only in the way that like I didn't really fit in anywhere. I was just kind of like on the fringe, like on my own. Like I had a few friends that went to the same grammar school as me in high school, and so thankfully I kind of hung out with them mostly and made a few friends. But I don't know. I wasn't really there wasn't a big music community at my high school because I was raised in Catholic school my entire life, and the high school that I went to didn't really have a music program at all. And so once I started getting into music, it was just kind of like there was nowhere for me in high school. So like that I was kind of like not in any clique, honestly.
Okay, so if you could write yourself a letter when you were 12, what would you write yourself?
Ah, probably. Wow. I mean, I can always add, like, right at the beginning of the letter, that cliche, everything's going to work out better than you think. um, uh, 12 to like 13 and my younger teen years were pretty rough for me. So honestly, somewhere around that vein would probably be um, added in there. But especially that like options are going to be a lot more vast than they seem at 12. You know, like
Of course.
Um, when I was 12, I mean, I had no idea what the fuck I wanted to do. Not that I do now, even, but I mean, um, when I was 12, I had no idea what like life was, you know? And so the more and more I've discovered over my life, uh, the more I realize that like you really can do like whatever the fuck you want, um, within certain systemic parameters, obviously. But that that probably keep it short and sweet. Like things are gonna get better. At, um, things are gonna get better than you think, and there's more out there than you actually can imagine. So don't give up right away.
So on the same topic here, what do you want to leave as your legacy?
um, well, it's always been reassuring or relieving, I guess, with how like being an artist or being a musician or a songwriter, um, when you release something, as long as like you set it up in a way or have people set up in a way that like it will stay out there, you're never gonna be like completely forgotten because like that's your mark on society and your mark on like the artistic community or whatever. And I think I don't know what kind of legacy. I mean, with the way I always try to write songs and write my lyrics is like trying to get the listener to engage in some sort of introspection, right? So like every song I write has some sort of, whether it's like a silly song or not, some sort of like hope to have the listener think of something differently or think about themselves differently or the world around them differently. And so but I would hope that like especially if I were to like disappear tomorrow, that my music would still stay there and people can listen to it and and engage in some sort of introspection, or like outrospection. I don't know if that's the word for it, but that'd probably be what I would say,
Well,
at least at this point.
speaking of songs, Hey You, who is that written about?
It's actually not written about anyone in particular. Um, that's a great question. I haven't gotten that yet. Um, there's always been like a bunch of people in my life that have been misunderstood for like very stereotypical reasons. Like that song is pretty general in the way that I wrote the lyrics, and for good reason, you know. But actually, I remember one time I was sitting at a train station, just kind of, and I was I waiting for a train or was I supposed to play a show there? I can't remember. I was sitting at a train station and I just got bored and decided to start playing my guitar and just sing whatever. And like you can tell when people like are trying to avoid you or like not acknowledge you, even though
Yeah.
they can clearly hear you. And it just kind of sparked this idea of a song in my head, that later on I started writing. And so like the first part of the song is like, I know you can hear me, like I'm right here, I'm still a human being, like you can acknowledge me and then keep going. Like
Yeah,
I'm just trying to like give you something that is artistic and human. And then the second verse of the song is more so um, a reminder to people that like you're able to be completely different than what you're perceived as, which is, uh, you know, a big problem in as human beings. We tend to really stick to stereotypes and biases and all that, and that kind of played on that, in the way like, uh, what am I trying to say? That's like regardless of whatever you think other people think of you, my message is that like I'm here to listen, even if I don't like you, or even if I don't understand you, who the fuck am I to judge you? You know,
Yeah.
because I'm a human being just like you are, and we all have like we may be able to judge each other for a myriad of reasons, but but at the end of the day, we're all just human beings with certain mental conditionings and stuff um, that kind of make up our personalities, which is important to understand. It's pretty heavy, but it's important to understand.
So do you still sing to your garden?
Do I still sing to my garden? Every now and then. Yeah.
Every now and then?
Um, this year, I was a little late planting this year, but I got to, kind of rework the soil a little bit and plant some different plants. So
Do you
I
think it
haven't
helps?
really sat down next to it and like sang for a while, like I did in my video, which I'm assuming
Yeah.
is what you. But I'm hoping to soon. So whenever I pass by, I like talk to him a bit and sing a little bit maybe as I walk by. But hopefully soon I'll do another video like that.
So regular Spider-Man or Black Spider-Man?
Oh man. Um, well, I grew up on the like the original Spider-Man movies. Like I never read too many comic books
Okay.
as a kid, and so I think my first um, introduction to Spider-Man was like the first one that came out with Tobey Maguire, and so those were just kind of my impression of Spider-Man. And then like I started um, realizing that there was like a whole other universe to Spider-Man other than just those movies. And then so um, that's a. But by Black Spider-Man, do you mean like the black Venom suit?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, well, once I saw the third movie, I was kind of sold on the Venom suit. Like that was pretty badass.
Well, we're gonna rewind a little bit because most people probably wouldn't know why I brought that up.
Okay,
Your song.
right.
I'm gonna let you say what the name of your song is.
Okay, yeah. Last December, I released a song called "I'm the Motherfucking Spider-Man."
I just figured to rewind a minute because I was like, wait a minute, I don't think they're gonna get this.
No, that's a great idea. Yeah. No, yeah. At some point, I think I was watching like footage of one of the new Spider-Man video games, like Spider-Man 4, and that was just like fantastic because I played Spider-Man 2 on the PS2 like all the time as a kid, and once I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is how I felt like playing that game. And I don't know, I think it just kind of inspired me to write a stupid, funny song about being Spider-Man.
So what do you do when you're playing a venue and they try ripping you off?
Ripping me off in what kind of way?
Payment.
Payment? Well, um,
So I know what happens.
yeah, it definitely happens. Um, there hasn't been too many gigs where there was like a big concern of money to begin with. Because I mean, most of the like I've gotten a lot of paid gigs in the recent years,
Okay.
um, but most of the gigs I've played are like basement shows or DIY shows where there really isn't
Okay.
much money anyway. But I think I feel like there was one time where it was just kind of like they didn't fulfill their like promise of payment to like any artist that night or something. And I don't know, we kind of like all complained to the booker about it because like they were kind of like in the direct contact with them. Because at that point, it's not like what I'm gonna say is gonna change anything. And like we already played, so it was kind of like
Can't take that back.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like we like playing music. That's why mainly why we're there. And it's like there wasn't really much to do, you know. Like the booker fought hard for us because they said we were gonna get paid a certain amount, and we barely got paid anything. But at that point, you have that as an experience, and so like you can tell people about that, and then eventually nobody decides to play there unless they're okay with like getting ripped off, you know. And I think that's kind of like there's really nothing to do in the moment unless you want to like trash the place, which doesn't really go well.
No,
Um, but you
legal
know,
fees at the end, you know.
in the music community, especially, you know, we're especially in the DIY community, it's all like word of mouth, like, hey, what do people think about this, like this and that and that. Like, do you have any stories about this? Or like, you know, you put a post up on Facebook or Instagram, and like everybody knows now, you know. So like, hey,
Yeah.
this place ripped us off. Don't fucking play there, you know. And then that's pretty much like they probably won't go completely out of business, at least in terms of music, because there will always be people that are okay with that and I don't really care. But you know, when you try to take yourself seriously as a musician or just as a person who like made an agreement, um, you know, you're not going to waste your time at that place, and so they have less clientele to, or they have less people to hire.
What's your
Purely just,
favorite? What's your favorite venue?
oh man,
To play or watch doesn't matter.
what's that?
To play or watch.
To play or watch. I mean, the Meat Locker in Montclair, New Jersey has always been like a home away from home for me. I haven't played there too much in the past couple of years, but I think at this point I really like going to like anywhere in Asbury. I've been really hoping to play in Asbury more, but any show that I get to play in Asbury is incredibly fun. I always love the scene down there. And like I think it was the Asbury Hotel we played a show in the lobby. And I think I played one time fuck, where was the other place? At the Wonder Bar? And that like just the whole vibe of Asbury in general is very fun. I mean, there's so many venues around New Jersey that are so cool. Um, I got to play drums for a metal band at Starland Ballroom a couple years ago. That was a blast too. Um, and I always love going to Starland. Like their sound system's great, and like any band that they have there is just like massively cool. Um, yeah, I'd probably put those at the top. Um, I will give a shout out to one venue that is no longer open. I don't know if you've ever been to the Clash Bar in Clifton, but
No.
sometime last year, like even before the whole pandemic hit, um, the Clash Bar was like the place to go in northern New Jersey. It was just like this dingy like 80s, not 80s themed, but like this like dive bar with a venue, you know, like it was like a small bar and a small stage, and like they had couches and stuff, and like the owner would always put like horror B movies on the TVs behind the bar. I don't know, it was just such a vibe, and like that was the place to hang out, you know. But he decided to sell it, and because you know he was in the business for decades at this point. But that was probably my favorite place to play and hang out. So I'll put that at the top, even though it's no longer open.
Who would you want to tour with?
Oh, that list goes on. I mean, um,
Top,
I,
top three. We'll
top
just top,
three.
we'll do top three.
I would love to either tour with or at least open for Streetlight Manifesto, as well
Okay.
as Anti-Flag. Those two bands have been big influences on me, and I've been a big fan of both of them for fucking most of my life. Um,
Chris, if you're watching,
what's that?
I just said if Chris, I just said if Chris, I hope you're watching.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been trying to get some sort of contact with either of their team to see if I can like, you know, uh, get my name in there. Um, if I and I'll give a shout out to my friends if I had to pick a third one to go on tour with. My buddies in Keep Flying are fantastic. I always love seeing them play, and I love playing shows with them whenever we get a chance. Um, and we talked about like possibly touring together at some point. So like, here's to hoping that that can actually happen one day. I would absolutely love to go on tour with Keep Flying.
What band do you love that everybody else hates?
um, That's a
What
good
do you?
question.
I know
Because,
there's a
like, no matter what, there's always going to be some people that like it. Um, but I'd probably say Ninja Sex Party. Because, like, they're like one of those comedy bands that I really like.
yeah.
And, like, a lot of people love them every time I go see them. Because I think I've seen them, like, twice now. Um, there's, like, always a huge crowd. So granted, a lot of people like them, but whenever I show them to somebody that like has no idea who they are, they're kind of like off put by it, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" You know. So I'd probably say that.
So which record label would you want to be signed by?
Hmm. I've been reflecting on that a lot the past few months, probably, because I never really, because like I grew up in like the punk scene and the DIY scene, so like to us, record labels are like corrupt and meaningless, right? But nowadays, there's a lot of like better ones. So like probably nothing like extremely corporate because like then they don't really treat their musicians well. But I mean I would love to do a record, at least one record with AF Records, Anti-Flag's record
Yeah.
label, or Fat Wreck. Oh fuck, what else? I mean, I think those are the top two that I would like to try to get into, or at least do one record with, because I know Fat Wreck has like single single album contracts and stuff, which would be really cool.
Do you have a muse?
A muse.
Yeah.
Um, that definitely depends. Um, hmm. Depending on what kind of song I end up writing, my muses can range from like interactions with people to just like to stuff I see on the news or like happening in the world, or like seeing some like some Spider-Man game, you know.
Well,
So,
yeah.
well, yeah, that definitely varies. Hmm. I guess if I had to pick one in a broader sense, probably, I mean, this is gonna sound cheesy as fuck, but the people that might end up listening to my songs would probably be my main muse because I'm always thinking about how they're gonna perceive it. Is that like is that a does that answer make sense?
It, it does. Like
Okay.
so per se, what's your end goal? Like, what is your? Are you going to be playing forever, or is this, do you want this to be your career? Like, what's the big picture here?
Well, that's a really good question because I'm always trying to figure that out myself. Because I mean, once I hit a certain point in my life, I was, I very much adopted the mentality of like your life can change in a year or 5 years or tomorrow, and so like music in general has always been a huge part of my life and has been like the main thing that has always just made the most sense to me. Because like no matter what the fuck is going on, like music and being a musician has always somehow like grounded me and made me feel like I made sense, in the universe or whatever. Um, so I mean, as a drummer, I would love to just like keep working for folks and like go on tour with some bands and like get hired for all these different cool things like I'm currently doing now. Just like keep going with that. As a solo musician too, I would just love to get more recognition and play these big ass shows and like headline more stuff and open for big ass bands that I love, go on tour more, and just keep releasing art that I'm proud of. You know, like the album I'm working on now is probably the best piece of art I've ever made, and I've never said that before. Um, so my goals and dreams definitely evolve and mature as I go on this journey, you know? So like I wouldn't be surprised if I don't play music forever, you know, but if I do, I also wouldn't be surprised. It really depends on where my life goes or like what I feel like fulfills me later down the line, you know? I know it's not really a definite answer, but that's kind of where I'm at now.
If you could pick your five top albums, what would they be?
Well, well, I'm gonna take some albums from like how I grew up. So like while this isn't like my favorite album now, I do have to give credit to Green Day's American Idiot because like that was like one of the first punk albums I ever heard. I was a huge Green Day fanatic as a kid, right? And and then that kind of like introduced me to like the whole world of um like actual punk. You know, so like original punk bands and like hardcore bands, and it just like Green Day allowed me to discover and branch out. Um, so you know, I always got to show love to them. But Under Attack by the Casualties was a fantastic and insane album, like all the way through. So like I've always loved that album. Um, I'm trying to pick a favorite Streetlight Manifesto album, but they're all fantastic. So I'm just gonna put them as a band on there.
I'll tag them later.
What's that?
I'll tag them later.
Okay, yeah, cool. That'd be great. Um, my favorite Anti-Flag album is probably Terror State. I
Okay.
think. What's that?
Said okay, that was a good album.
Yeah, I mean, I loved a lot of songs off of that album. They're kind of the same band, you know, like or this a similar type of band where so many of their albums are so great and like hard hitting and fantastic. But I definitely like most of their earlier ones more. Um, what was that like four? I got one more. Hmm. Probably Life Won't Wait by Rancid.
Okay.
There's a lot of really awesome bangers on that album, and I mean Blood Clot on that album is like one of my favorite Rancid songs too. I also liked how kind of different that album was compared to like to the rest of them because like I love Outcome the Wolves, and I mean Rancid as a whole I love as a band, but something about Life Won't Wait was like kind of stood out to me and was still like really awesome. Yeah, so I'll probably pick that one.
I was picturing you gonna say Bad Religion or Rise Against.
Well, I mean, those are also bands that are up there for me. So, like, if I could pick like five more, I can go on.
I know. I'm just saying. Like I thought that would have been one of the top five.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I do really love Bad Religion. I can't remember an entire album of theirs that like really stuck to me though. So, like, I love a lot of their songs, but like when I think of like a favorite album, I try to think of like, did I like at least 90% of this album, you know? And I think Bad Religion is one of those bands that I pick and choose songs off of albums. And Rise Against is kind of the same thing. Like I grew up on Rise Against too. I fucking love them. I'm actually seeing them in August down in Asbury, which I'm excited
Stone
for.
Pony. Stone
But
Pony. Right?
Sufferer and the Witness, I think was the album name, right? And I kind of listened to that album like all the way through. But there's even like some songs on there that I'm not too fond of anymore. Um, but you know, Rise Against is fucking great as well.
They're playing what Stone Pony, I believe.
Yeah, they're doing the summer stage with Descendants and Menzingers. It's fucking stacked.
And aren't you playing a show Saturday?
This Saturday, yeah, my first time at Muncie, I think is how you pronounce it. Muncie Bar and Grill in Buena, New Jersey. It's a bit more South Jersey. But yeah, I'm actually doing like I'm kind of the artist for the night. I'm doing like a 4 hour block. Just playing mostly covers and stuff, kind of like background music. So that's a little bit different than the my usual shows. So I'm kind of excited about that.
So how do you pick your playlist? Well, set list.
Um, well, it depends on the kind of show. Um, for like cover stuff and bar stuff, I kind of like vibe out the room, and like I have a long list of, but like that's obvious, irrelevant. But I think it depends. Like I'll try to look at like what kind of vibe the venue usually has, or like what other bands are playing. Um, I mean, at this point, I only have so much material to pick anyway. So, it's always going to be like this loud, fast, angry Joe Billy music. But, I have a couple slower songs or, just like certain songs I wouldn't play just because it doesn't fit the vibe. So I kind of just go with that. I
So
always have like my few handful of songs that I always play or like
those,
most of the time play just
so
because.
those are your staple.
Yeah, kind of like my staples. People usually like them, anywhere I go. So I'll typically play those. Um, I've been throwing in like one or two new songs, like unreleased songs off of my next album too. So, that kind of makes their way in there as well.
So any announcements at the moment?
Well, I mean, I already said a couple of times that I am working on a new album. It's been a long time in the running and still a long way to go, but I'm very excited about it. As opposed to like all of my other releases, which are mostly just acoustic guitar and vocals. Um, Aside from like a couple singles that are full band. This like most of this album is gonna be full band stuff with drums, bass, electric guitar, some horns, some fiddle, um, plenty of harmonies to go around. I'm really excited about it. Like every single song is to me awesome, and I feel like the album is gonna offer something for everybody who's kind of into that kind of music, or even not so much. I feel like there's a couple of songs that can be pretty universally accepted. Um, Along with the album, I'm hoping to get some new merch out um, as well, and do more full band shows. Considering I'm going to have more material to do that kind of stuff with, because most of the time I play solo, but I always like to get a band with me too whenever I get a chance. Any other announcements? I do have a few shows coming up. I actually can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but if you follow me on social medias at Joe Billy Music or go to my website joebillymusic.com, you can stay updated with all that stuff. Um, Aside from that, that's mainly what I've been working on. The album and playing some shows again.
Okay, with that said, it was great talking to you, and I'll let you know when everything's posted.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me, Rob.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, dude.
Take care.